Okay, I'm Robert Smith, and I'm the lead teacher for the education department of the Olympia Beekeepers here. This is sponsored by the Olympia Beekeepers, but it's actually, all of the material is put together and is the property of the Washington State Beekeepers. In order to become a certified apprentice beekeeper, you need to buy the copyright book that is put out by the Washington State Beekeepers. And the classes consist of 10 lessons, and it's really very simple setup. If you look at it on an educational point of view, it's junior high material. They're true-false questions. There's 100 questions divided into the 10 lessons. And it covers everything from learning about what honeybees really are, you know, the kind of animal they are and all of the way that fits, clear through to the very end to all of the different materials that we derive from the beehives. And the pollination is probably the most important thing as far as agriculture is concerned, as far as beehives go. No, you can join the class at any juncture. That's the thing, it's an open book test. Each one of the tests, you open your book and you read through that chapter and answer the questions for that the 10 questions for that chapter. And so if you're any kind of a student, you could do the whole thing really in a couple of hours. It would be no problem at all. Indeed, the Washington State Beekeepers issues you a frameable, beautiful certificate with a big, and it's got your name on it and all of that. And so we've started numbering them now. We have over 3,000 apprentice beekeepers now in Washington State.
Talk about clothing. This is obviously a beekeeper suit, and I was going to put this on and wear it. This is the one that I was using today when I was out in my bees. I liked it. It's easy to throw on. It's easy, quick to put on. The one that that's Peter Smith right there. He and I are kind of beekeeping buddies. Bob Smith, is Bob here or is he out? Bob Smith, he's my mentor. He's the guy I learned everything from. So anything I tell you that's wrong is from him. When Peter and I are in our bees and we're just working for an hour or two, or real quick, we're out there real quick, you can throw this on, you can go out there, you can tinker around with it, you can work on your bees, and then you take it off and you go somewhere else. When you're really getting out there to go into your bees, you know, you see guys with a full bee suit, and that's what I would recommend that you get first of all. Get yourself a full bee suit, one that the bees don't crawl up your legs.
Hi, I'm Lori Pine. I'm president of the Olympia Beekeepers Association. The Olympia Beekeepers Association meets the second Monday of each month at Chinook Middle School in Lacey. We have an introduction to beekeeping class, an apprentice level class or beginner's class that meets from 6 to 7 prior to the start of the regular meeting, which begins at 7 o'clock. We have a program associated with every meeting, so there's an educational component to each meeting as well, which is usually conducted in the second half of the meeting. There are no special requirements to become a member of the Olympia Beekeepers Association. The common thread that unites everybody that comes to our meetings or becomes a member of our club is an affection, a passion, or an interest in bees and other pollinators, and why the honeybee is so important to us from a societal, cultural, and agricultural point of view. So everyone is welcome to attend our meetings. So our club membership right now is approximately 200, 210. It varies throughout the course of the year. The greatest influx of new members is typically in the end of winter, early spring months, because that's really when beekeeping season gets started in earnest. So people are installing new bees in hives in March to April, closer to the end of April. So that usually brings in a greater influx of new members.
Okay, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a full everybody here all the way in the back. Way in the back. beekeeping and is enjoying their honey extracting activities, or at least the fruits of their labors.
I keep the bee extracting equipment at my house in a shed, which is at least undercover as it wasn't before. So for the members, there is some honey extracting equipment. I'm sure you're all wanting some. I like to get an email at beeyard@comcast.net to tell me that you need it so I can line it up for you. But as I said, the electric extractor is actually minus a rheostat at the moment. It's been wobbling around. And so we have a hand cranked 4-frame lateral extractor rather than a radial one. And we have a very small 2-frame extractor, and we have decapping, 2 sets of decapping trays with hot knives and combs and a big tray to collect the caps in. And you're welcome to it. There's been a few people using it already, but you're probably about that time of year. I'm going to try and mend the electric one, but if anybody's got a spare rheostat hanging around.
Well, if you are a beginning beekeeper, probably one of the things that you are looking forward to is getting some honey from your beehive. I know that's why I originally got beehives, is because I like honey. When should you harvest some honey? Because there are a lot of cases where it's really not smart to take honey off of the hive. And so that's, you want to know going into the winter, how heavy is that hive? And if it's not that heavy, then you revert back to what Tricia was saying, feed them. But you don't want to feed beyond the point where the bees cannot reduce the sugar level. You're going to get them down to honey consistency. Because if they go into the winter with this sort of half-baked bunch of sugar in there, it's going to start to ferment. So be careful about that. I usually recommend is that as soon as it starts having any frost in your area, you should stop feeding sugarwort. Brenzy has brought in with him some of the equipment that you need to take those frames and get the honey out of those combs.
So basically what you do is it has a little wooden thing that goes along the top here, and there's a nail that sticks up. You slap the frame, the wood part into the nail, just so it holds because it wants to slip. And then you take either a fork, and I prefer this one. When I was talking to Bob a minute ago about it, versus the string one. The string one's more for scratching, but I found it makes more mess and clogs up your stringers and stuff, where you can just decap and pull the tops of the cells off really nice. You can throw these in the bucket, you know, as you're pulling them off. The other method, when you get really advanced,
The old time guys.
I'm not one of those. Use one of these hot knives. Now, some people use a cold knife, which is basically just like a bread cutting knife, where you cut off the ends. I actually kind of like this, but you have to be careful you don't get it too hot and burn honey. But it's got a thermostat control on here, and when you start out, it slices pretty good, and then the honey itself kind of cools the knife down. And then, you know, there's a, you know, it's a little bit sharp, so you can kind of do a sawing motion, but it takes it off really nice, drops the cappings in the tank here, and you could get them done much quicker.
Many of the beekeepers in this association don't use chemicals and are strong advocates of not using them. So the chemicals we'll talk about tonight are not the only answer. The idea is kind of let nature take it. But you help nature along by using good management techniques. Keep the hives warm and dry and well fed. Give them honey if you can possibly do so.
To get there though, let's review what happens with the winter cluster, how it forms. So when the temperature drops down to about the mid-50s, the bees start to form that cluster. And what they're doing is they're kind of clumping together. On the outside of the cluster, the bees will face inward, so they're kind of backside out. And that allows them to interlock the little hairs on their sides and their thoraxes and whatnot. So it creates an insulating, almost like a shell. And that shell can go into a, 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches into the cluster. I can get that mic back up here so you can hear me. And the bees in the inside of the cluster will stress their thorax muscles and burn that, and that's how they create the heat. And the inside temperatures of the cluster will get up to the mid-90s, 90 to 95 degrees. And then it will gradually get cooler to the outside to about mid-40s on the outside of the cluster.
So if there is anybody or you know anybody who's in an association, as long as they're a member of the association, that's all that matters. You guys, because you pay your dues here, are members of the state association. So it's really important. The other thing too is that the legislative session that goes on up there concerns every one of you. So you really want to get in on the board meeting and the business meeting along to push your point, make sure that beekeeping and the state focus is where you think it ought to be. This is yours to steer. And so I'm always looking for input from everybody. So thank you so much for taking 3 minutes out of your evening to listen to me.
Now, hang on to it. See, so you got your thumb there where you can put your thumb over. See, you got your thumb where you can switch your thumb over that hole real quick.
Okay.
Blow him off there. He'll blow off.
He's stubborn.
Okay. So now I got to be ready to get the thumb over. Okay.
And keep an eye on her.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. You go up. Okay.
Good one.
There she is.
Just straight down the middle?
Just straight down the middle, yeah. Just
Good girl.
kind of help him get. Yeah, that's it. That's all you need.
There she goes.
All right. You want to twist it this way.
Oh, okay.
So you want this
Facing in the...
against the frame. You want this open.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, you want that open, yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you. Do we want her sitting right at the top there?
No, down underneath. Push it down inner ways.
Push it down a little more?
Yeah, so it'll kind of come in between the frames. A little bit more yet, so it'll come in between the frames.
Oh, okay, I see.
There's a bee on your hair.
That's all right.
Yeah, there you go.
They're just curious, that's all.